Terraria's early game is honestly really fun, and it's my favorite stage of the entire game. But obviously, it's not perfect, and it has a few things that could either be changed, removed, or completely overhauled. So what are the biggest changes that could be made to Terraria's early game to make it a little bit better? Let's talk about it. First of all, I would make a lot more of the movement accessories and accessories in general craftable. Hermes boots, for example, should absolutely be craftable. Whether it's with silk, or some other item, or maybe another accessory, I feel like there just has to be a way to craft items like the Hermes boots. When you have an item like the Hermes boots which aren't craftable, you leave it up to luck entirely. And yeah, in most playthroughs you'll probably find the Hermes boots pretty early on, but every now and then you'll get that really bad luck, you're looking for hours underground and you still don't get this item. I mean, I have a master mode playthrough that I've been doing where I've built a few nice houses, I have all of the accessories I could need, I beat a few boss fights, and yet I still haven't been able to find Hermes boots. When you get a really unlucky situation like that, it would be a lifesaver to be able to just craft the item. And it's not just the Hermes boots as well. Certain items like the cloud in a bottle, for example, would also be great to have a recipe for. Another thing that would fix Terraria's early game and make it better, or really fix Terraria in general, is better cave generation. Don't get me wrong, Terraria's cave generation has become significantly better over the years, but it's still not very consistent. Sometimes you can get a world where there simply isn't an entrance to a greater cave system, where there's no house, or no mineshaft, or even a lot of interesting ore. Once again, this is a big RNG problem, because while you might get a decent world seed most of the time, if you get a really bad world with not a lot of caves, it's just over for you. If you get the very common bad cave generation in Terraria, you just have to spend most of your time digging down in the early game, which is very tedious and boring, especially considering your pickaxe is so slow. So when I say Terraria needs better cave generation, I'm not talking anything crazy. All I'm saying is that maybe you could use some more guarantees. Guarantee that the world mountain will lead into at least a few structures, even if it's super deep down. Maybe there can be a minecart or a mushroom biome or something actually interesting, and all of a sudden the early game would become a lot more consistently fun for a lot of people. It can often be a lot faster to create an entirely new world than waste your time walking around or digging around one with bad generation. Another thing I would do, and maybe I'm biased because this is my favorite class in the game, but please, fix early game mage. Mage in the early game is straight up bad. It's not good. At this stage of the game, I would argue that even summoner is a lot more accessible and easy to use. Your best bet is that maybe you can get a wand of sparking, or a ruby staff, or a diamond staff, or some sort of other gem staff in the game. But obviously, the other classes at this stage of the game have way more variety and a lot cooler weapons. Melee has the Star Fury, Blade of Grass, Enchanted Sword, Thorn Chakram. Ranged has the Boomstick, the Musket, the Mini Shark, and even the Paintball Gun. Summoner has the Snapthorn, the Leather Whip, the Finch Staff, and Abigail's Flower. And then Mage has a couple staffs. And that's basically it. Now, I have one last request, and this is gonna sound a little bit crazy, but hear me out. Decrease the damage of nighttime enemies before the Eye of Cthulhu. We've all been there before, it's one of our first times playing Terraria, you do a little bit bad on your first day, you're in the overworld, it's nighttime, and now all of a sudden, you literally can't get anywhere. Whether it's because you just don't have a good enough weapon at the time, or too many enemies are swarming your spawn point, there are times where you just can't get anywhere after a while. Maybe this won't affect really good players, or just decent players in general, but for a lot of beginners, it's a big problem. And I think a simple solution would be to decrease the damage of nighttime enemies before fighting the Eye of Cthulhu. Or maybe not even necessarily the Eye of Cthulhu, just any in-game boss. The early game is really daunting for a lot of players, and sometimes it can become too much. Maybe it's not a perfect idea, maybe it'd be better for farming or something like that, but I've tried to think of any problems that could arise from this, and I really can't come up with much. So yeah, there you have it. Those are all the changes that I would make to early game Terraria. I'm probably a little bit biased though, because I love this stage of the game, so if there are any changes you would make sure to leave them in the comments. And as always, I'll see you next time. Bye bye.